I don't even know how to follow that up. That's so, it's amazing. Um, can everyone see my screen
Yeah,
with the
Yes.
slide deck?
yeah.
Oh, that's awesome. Good. It's working then. Fantastic. Well, just so much, it's amazing listening and hearing everybody. You pointed out a noise signal ratio, the quality of listening, the quality of communication. And in my heart, those are key things, key elements to leading. So let's start there. In leading today, we're at a different stage. It's been more difficult today, in my humble opinion, than it has ever been. And you would think that no, that can't be possible. We've had, cave bears, we've had wars, we've had pestilence. Why is leading today more difficult? A, signal to noise ratio, but also the simple fact that, again, we've we've taken an element of leadership and just morphed it based on these blogs, books, talks. We've put on kiddie gloves. By kiddie gloves, to be clear, it's a common term here in North America, is we're constantly reaffirming and being positive about every little thing. And it's posted a massive challenge. Based on my experience, it's posted a massive challenge. Over our conversation, I hope to share the challenges with this approach and some key elements to the various leadership models that are out there. Good question would be, if I was sitting in the audience, I'd be like, well, why are you talking about this? Well, I've got 20 years of experience in product and engineering, and I've done work successfully through multiple regions, EMEA, North America, Asia. So there's a different dynamic with the people. And whether it was Nestle Foods, Sun Micro, in education and ed technology, smart technology, desire to learn. And now today I'm at Martech, but that's just the corporate side. The personal side, I was blessed to play cricket and lead teams at a provincial, regional, and national level. And as funny as it may sound, I learned more by playing sports and doing community work than I did through my experience otherwise. Well, why leading? I've been infatuated. Johan, I saw you kind of nod a little bit. And it's been that element. Like you see a great leader and they change the entire dynamic just by their presence, by the way they engage people. And the flip side of that coin is you can have a terrible leader that will cripple a team, a brilliant team, and just cripple them. And it's just like, well, what happened? And I've read the books of, Steve Jobs. I worked at Sun Micro. There was Ed Zander, Scott McNeely, numerous people there. They don't have a special organ. It's not like they, grew up with a wing on their back or a different halo set. It was an element that I think that we can all adopt and improve our leadership. Well, when I was first promoted to lead people, I'm going to put this out there humbly. Like most people who got promoted the first time, I had no idea. Like I was like, it's not a position I could say no to. Oh, I'm going to get paid more and I get to lead people. I'm in. But after I said yes, I was like, oh, like what am I doing? How do I do this? There's no instruction. I wasn't told anything. It was just like, you're good at your job. We want you to now lead people. Nerve-wracking, to say the least. I took a step back and I was like, well, let me understand what leading actually is. And from that perspective, I broke it down to a very simple formula. You're given a set of objectives. I was told to raise Nestle's fruit drink sales across Pakistan. And I had some resources available to me, people, process, tools, technology, the standard. Okay, I understood that. I then met with the people, understood the org goals. If we want to increase our sales, I'll go meet with the salespeople and understand what their quotas are, get those two aligned. And then thereafter, it was fairly simple, just inspire the people to achieve their goals. I wish it was that simple. It wasn't, unfortunately. But now that I understood what leadership was in a definition, well, what kind of different models are there? And I think we're all familiar with these, whether you're talking about the do as I say, follow me, do as I do, what do you think? One of my favorites is, consider this, the coaching methodology. And then affiliative, where you're talking about people come first, that's also become more important to me, because no matter what your tech, no matter what your tools, what product you have, it's the people that will make the greatest difference. Nothing but. And as a leader, you have multiple styles. Oh, sorry, my apologies. There's also laissez-faire, where very little involvement from the leader and it's just monitoring performance. So you have these models available to yourself, and you can choose either a model or morph a couple together. But of course, before you do that, you probably best to reflect on who you are, the environment you're in, and then choose the models that you think you can be most successful with. I'm going to try to do this by, don't laugh, but I'm going to share some of my experiences, and hopefully it comes across as a learning opportunity. Myself, pretty simple. I work very well off of visualization of an end state. We are here to make, my most recent opportunity, marketers empowered and more successful, so we can take an individual marketer and make them a marketing team by putting tools and technology at their fingertips. I understand what the visual state is. I also benefit greatly from mentorship, not someone holding my finger and walking me through the park, but a soundboard, someone who's been there before, who's actually, run the gauntlet. And I can sound check off them. Where am I? Part of that mentorship is the opportunity to share progress and course correct. I can send up a flare. They can tell me, hey, 3 degrees to the left, 3 degrees to the right, and then work with that model. Knowing who I was, I thought, okay, well, that's good, but it's not about me. It's about how I am in the environment. What are the elements of the environment that are out there? Whether you're talking, quite simply, it's external and internal. You got the external competitors, market trends, and then internal are your teams and peers. I'm going to use the last 6 years of my experience at Desire to Learn, which is a learning platform for most universities, and then consulting, and now at Uberflip, to hopefully give you a representation of the idea that I've had, or the experience that I've had. I don't know if you watch mainstream movies, but Scott Pilgrim versus the World was basically my Mondays and Fridays. Desire to Learn's office was in, I would like to call it, hostile territory. As you walk in, the first floor of the building was a collection of incubators, multiple companies, startups. You got some great ideas, some very visionary speakers, and flexible role requirements and unique perks. So, for example, there was a company that was developing Uber Eats, and everyone who worked there got lunch carted in. So every Monday and Friday, my junior and intermediate developers, they'd kind of catch me at the door of the building and say, hey, I just saw a role posted at, whatever company, and according to their requirements, I'm a senior developer. Well, I was standing in line behind the CTO for that company. We had an informal interview, and they can see me as an architect in 1 year. And I just kind of stopped my tracks. I was like, wow. And for whatever reason, I can't explain it to you, but I didn't feel defensive. I was like, well, that's great, but what's keeping you here? Like, what's keeping you at Desire to Learn? And I was like, well, I came here because you have a really solid set of experienced people, and it's an opportunity to learn. I'm like, okay, well, you know what? I love walking through there. They're brilliant companies. If you have the opportunity and you're interested in that and you're willing to take on the extra work, and they're like, what do you mean extra work? And I was like, well, if they're asking you to be a senior developer and you're the only senior developer, that's a lot of responsibility. And if you're willing to step up to that and learn from your mistakes without a safety net, because here you have a safety net, you got architects, you got senior developers available to you. But if you want to try that, I'm happy to support you. Go have a follow-up interview. I think some of the thoughts going through the mind is like, well, you just lost that person. Fair, yeah, I did. I did every now and again. But the fact was getting to them as what brought you here. And if it's changed, hey, happy to see you move forward. That was Mondays and Fridays and the junior developers. The rest of the week, I had a different, I'd say, challenge. My senior developers and product managers would be coming to me for the rest of the week. And you've probably heard the saying, grass is always greener on the other side. Well, just so that you can understand what the other side was, when you enter the building, take the elevator up, when you exit the elevator for our floor, the third floor, on the right-hand side was D2L and the left-hand side was Google. Well, I can assure you that when your neighbor is Google, that statement is absolutely true. They had a slide in the building. I didn't even know that you could put a slide into a building, but they had a slide in the building that went between floors. They have a chef on staff and obviously a phenomenally better compensation package. So you'd have the senior developers and product managers catch me the rest of the week and they'd be like, hey, you know what? Google is offering $25,000 more for the same role that I'm doing here. Initially, I got a little bit defensive, kind of tight in my chest. I'm like, you know what? You're here for the odds are you're here with your company for 3 to 5 years. And I want you to be here. If you really want to be here, I want you to be here because I think you'll make the biggest difference. We're here to change the world through learning. If that's not what excites you, I get it. And if you're excited by what the local Google office is doing, in our case, it was ad optimization, then go for it, apply. And if you make it, fantastic. If you don't, please ask them what you need to improve. And I commit, I'll work with you on that front, not just myself, but the managers and so on. To be clear, for the record, my department's retention was about in the high 90s. Google and other companies did take 5 people over the 4 years that we were there. But we were also able to get 2 people from Google and a numerous number of people from the first floor. That was outside of theoretically my 4 walls. Please stop me at any time and ask questions, or I'd love to hear if you also shared an office with something like Google and had to deal with the same challenge. We talk about, that was external. Then when we talk about within the building, it was people and peers. And this is where it got really weird for me. Within my teams, I had knowledge workers. So they're brilliant, very sharp people. They knew where they were and what they wanted next from their careers, which was great. I love when people know exactly what they're looking for. It makes it easier for me to help with them. And then came the wants versus needs. Well, they wanted top tier pay. They wanted the perk. They wanted unlimited vacation time. Some of the stuff that was coming up from the startups on the first floor. What they needed was autonomy in decision-making, accountability for decisions and actions, and contributing to a cause. I've heard this through when Nikki was asking the question, hey, what would you do if you didn't need the money? And it's that contributing to a cause and meaningful work that makes that big difference. So if we could do all of that and provide a competitive package, I understood the team, or at least I felt I understood the team. Then there's my peers. And again, back to that blog concept, back in late 2014, this concept of the consistent positive reinforcement, I apologize if it is offensive, but the kiddie glove leadership model had become rampant. We were celebrating everything. And I was like, okay, I get it. I'm going to give it a try because I've never tried this before. So I had a team that I was managing directly, and our goal was to scale a feature set to match a semester start for a major customer, which is the big ramp up, right? As you're talking about incredible complexity, high numbers, the ultimate worst case scenario. At each stand-up, we plotted updates. We celebrated sprints and completions. We celebrated story pointing. We celebrated design, you name it. Well, at the end of the project, we achieved our goal. And you're going to laugh at this. That week when we completed, they didn't talk about Google. My senior members came to me and they were like, you know what? We did what we needed to do, but we're not happy. I thought, oh, come on. Are you kidding me? We did what we needed to do. You're not going to talk to me about Google? This is fantastic. No. They're like, we didn't get critical feedback. We didn't learn a lot. And they picked the most senior member of the team who I was very close with, and she handed me a book of radical candor. She's like, you probably should read this. Okay. So I took it and I read it. By the way, it's a great book. Please do read it. To me, that was a C- result. We achieved results, but there was a discrepancy in the team. I didn't step back. I wanted to try it again. I wanted to learn from my experiment. Now, 6 other experiments happen at the same time, and I ask you, what do you think the success rate was across those 6 experiments? Any
100%.
takers? Sorry?
I'd say 100% from the way you've said it.
I wish.
Oh,
30%.
shit.
Yeah, 30%, Marcus. And it was frightening. So 2 efforts yielded acceptable results. In my book, we achieved the goal of the project, but the team didn't feel satisfied. So half and half. And 5 efforts, we just failed. We didn't even get to we didn't complete all the objectives, the main objectives required. The team was in a disarray. And, you know, most of the group here, I think, has got brilliant broad experience. When that happens, the usual results is a reorg. And that's literally what happened. There was a reorg. One of the departments that had applied this methodology solely, they got reorged and they joined my department. So I took the opportunity to learn not only from what I didn't do right, and that led to me getting the book Radical Candor, but to meet with these people. And you're going to be surprised. I obviously, given the intelligence of the group, you may not be surprised by this, but a couple of common themes came out when I met with all levels: developers, designers, product managers, engineers, directors. Why were we reorged? We were fine. Like every stand-up, Nadeem, we were celebrating. So why were we reorged? And then the intermediates or the more senior individuals were like, if we weren't doing well, why didn't we know? And I'm taking notes like crazy. I'm scratching my head. I'm like, what? That's a great point. And then came the most senior individuals who were like, if we weren't doing well, and I don't mean senior and seniority, but just the way they thought, if we weren't doing well, why were we celebrating? Why were we not focused on what wasn't working? It was mind blowing. I'm like, oh, wow. That's a great point. Okay. And so I interpreted that learning, what I took, followed up with the leader who now worked with me, and some straight statements came out of that. Don't coddle. Obviously, given the fact that I got the book Radical Candor, like, don't coddle. Just be straightforward and tell me what's going on. Tell me why it's not working, or are we on track? Because this is the worst case. We lost people because of that reorg, and it was expected. It was like, oh, well, you'll lose about 50%. I'm like, we can't accept that. These are people who have product knowledge. They know how learning happens. They know this customer. We're just letting this experience walk out the door because we coddled them, because we weren't being straightforward and being transparent. And then, of course, as my group mentioned, feedback. If we didn't know, when we knew that we weren't on track, how come we didn't get that feedback then? Fair. And then don't just tell me like it's broken or it's not working. Give me something that I could action. Give me something that I could actually work on. So it had to be actionable. I'm like, okay, well, that makes a lot of sense. And yes, I'm not, I'm not pushing or advocating for this consistently drive people in a grindstone methodology. We're building the pyramids, not at all. But acknowledge the achievements that propel you to your goals. Completing a sprint is just part of completing a sprint. But if you completed stories or an experience for a customer, that deserves celebration. That's something crazy. So if it looks like it, if it walks like it, if it sounds like it probably is an adult. And like I said, I made numerous mistakes. We lost people to Google. We lost people to the incubators below. But the core group of the department, which became a talent magnet, was, in our yearly surveys or in our quarterly surveys, when we did engagement surveys, it was, they felt they were treated with respect. Their expertise was acknowledged and utilized. And, an experience from big game hunting, don't surprise large mammals. They liked the fact that they weren't surprised. They liked the fact that I was very transparent, and the leaders were very transparent with them. And I'd love to say like it was just a crazy success and D2L went public and they're worth billions of dollars. We were successful, but more important, those people and that approach yielded the results. We as a team grew. We became talent magnets. We were able to pull people from Google. And when I left D2L, it was actually somebody who I unfortunately had to lay off and let go during a reorg, who recommended me to my current to consulting opportunities. If you ever came to me or to me now and went back to the Nadeem of 2015 and said, by the way, this is going to happen, I'd be like, you should probably stop drinking. That's not going to happen. There's no way you let someone go in a reorg and they turn around and recommend you for an opportunity. But the way this person spoke to me was like, it was like, I understood, I could see from the way you talked to me that this was painful for you and that you treated me like an adult, and you respected, like you've always respected my knowledge. Hey, you know this technology better. How should we be approaching this? Now I hope I haven't gone too fast, but to loop back to the beginning, leadership is harder today than it's ever been. But I firmly believe that if we apply that one universal law, that to be successful, we've got to treat our people like adults. And I don't care which model you use. If you start with those elements and apply the elements with a level of humility and a genuine interest in the people, it's going to be phenomenal. You will get what I consider A plus results, where the sum of the parts and your results are actually exceed the sum of the parts. You've got engaged people. They've delivered a better solution, a better experience to the customer. And that to me is a successful leader. I'm still working on achieving that, just to be clear. I'm still working on achieving that, but it's been a phenomenal journey. And I hope that you can take some of these elements from the story and apply them. But it's been really good. It's been really, really good.